Hi, welcome to Coffee with Carrie. Here's your host, Carrie LeZotte.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Carrie. I'm Carrie LeZotte. I'm your Director of Cable and Community Relations for Bloomfield Township. And this is the show where we talk to people who help keep the township running and make it a really wonderful place to live and to work. And I'm super excited today because this is our first show in our new podcast studio, which is something that's available to those of you who are members of the community. You can come in and do your own podcast show. And my first guest today in this new podcast room is Elizabeth Parrott, who is our director. I'm not a director. She kind of is a director, but she is the human resources and benefits manager. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
And Elizabeth has been with the township for 5.5 years. And prior to that, she was with Cigna, who was managing our benefits for 5 years. And so that's how you found out about us, right?
It is. It was really a great relationship start to be here at the township in 2012. And I was helping with open enrollment meetings and wellness events. So I was able to meet the employees. I was able to meet the department heads and the retirees and really got to know everybody. So when the opportunity came along for this position, I applied, and I'm very happy to be here.
So can you tell me a little bit about what's the difference between corporate culture and government culture? Since that's kind of what Cigna was, right? It was definitely corporate.
Cigna is definitely, or we call private, a private entity. So the benefits are definitely different. So when I worked for Cigna, I probably had a book of business of 30 different employer groups, and I could see all of their different benefits, and Bloomfield had the best benefits by far none. They definitely had the best benefits. And I think that's one of the traits of a government employer group is they want to take care of their employees and the families. And that's what really I think Bloomfield does. Mm-hmm. And Cigna, being a private industry, was more looking to help people get up in their careers. So there were opportunities to move up and stuff like that and help you with other opportunities. I got to travel a lot. So I fully thank Cigna for all of that opportunity to travel. But really the difference between private and government, and sometimes is the union too. You have union members here at the township. You don't really see that in the private industry that much.
So do you want to just highlight what a couple of those different benefits are that we have? I mean, I'm kind of a benefits junkie myself, so it's taken me a while to get used to it. And especially I was running my own business for many years. And so to come into a place where everything is kind of the things that you have to worry about investigating and taking care of, it's kind of taken care of for you, which is awesome.
That's what I think. So Bloomfield has put together a really comprehensive package. So it's not just healthcare, which includes the medical, the pharmacy, the dental, and the vision, but it's also your retirement. You're planning ahead. So we have the 401A benefit, where the township puts money in for you. You don't even really have to do an employer match, which I think is great. But when you do want to put money away, there's the 457. And we use Empower for those tools. And we also offer disability insurance, life insurance. We have an employee assistance program. And we give employees the opportunity to purchase additional life insurance so they have coverage for their family, for their spouse, and their children. And then we also offer up additional benefits that I would call kind of the voluntary benefits, where if you have a critical illness or if you have an accident, there is a benefit that you can purchase to pay you back for those types of things that happen.
So I think that sometimes when hiring, employees that are starting out more at the beginning of their career, it's hard to get them to understand, looking, if they're 25 and they're looking 20, 25 years in the future, it's really hard to get them to understand how to make that investment. What do you try and tell them? Because I think that's one of the things that I know, you just don't think about it when you're in your 20s, I guess.
You don't. You definitely don't. So what we do is we try to start them off as like, here's the benefit, and we give them an outline of the benefit and probably some additional details. But then we try to do wellness lunch and learns. So we'll have Rob Higgins from Schwartz & Company come on site. You have the opportunity to meet with him at any point in time during the year and have a sit down with him for probably about an hour to review, and he'll ask you what are your plans for the future, when do you think you'll retire, and he'll help you look over all the different investment options that we have, which I think is something unique for a employer group to do. And you can check on it every year. And we also send out quarterly updates to everyone to let you know how your investments are doing. And then of course we try to also do on-site instructional demonstrations for the Empower tools so that you can see what your investments are doing. for many young people, they I'm just kind of looking at my paycheck and wanting to know where it's going and who is FICA and federal and state taxes and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think as the months go on and the years go on and they see, hey, you know what, this is a good investment. This is an investment in my future.
Well, you're getting a thumbs up for that remark. So you must be saying something that people are agreeing with. So, and if you are watching, I'm just reminding you that it is being recorded and we'll broadcast it later. It'll be available on YouTube. But if you have a question for us or if you'd like to say hello, just give Elizabeth a shout out. Please feel free to do that. And we're at bloomfieldtownship.org. That's where you can find out more information. So moving beyond benefits, how do you get the job? Like, what are some of the tips that we have?
Yeah, so one really important tip, not just for Bloomfield, but for any person applying a position is going to be the application. If they require you to fill out an application, fill it out completely. Don't miss a step, don't miss a signature part on that, because that can really get complicated for someone to have to go back and say, hey, you kind of missed a whole page on the application.
And I know that the supervisor talks about like the difference between a resume and the application. So if you can explain, the application is something that you're signing, right? So that
right. I would say the application is like the facts. Here are the facts. This is where I went to school. This is where I worked. This was the location. Here's the phone number. And the resume just gives us way more details about what you did at that job on a regular daily basis. So what were you doing at this particular employer group? Because that's really what we need to know is we need to understand, do you understand the process that's involved with that position? And does that experience relate to the position that you're applying for?
So the next tip, let's go to use spell check.
Yes, use spell check. I mean, that's such an easy thing to do, I think, today's with computers. I think even your email helps you with spell check. If something is not spelled correctly, I think that maybe that attention to detail is lacking just a tad bit.
I'm just going to say I do not have good attention to detail. So when the job says good attention or excellent attention to detail, that's really not me. So you can still get jobs and not have that.
Right.
But you do want to be able to
it doesn't
use spell check or have someone else read it for you too, right?
Right. It doesn't hurt to have someone else read it. See if it makes sense. See if it flows well. I think that's a good idea too.
Okay. Here's one of my favorites.
Do your research. I mean, if you're applying for a position, it doesn't take much to go to that employer group's website and find out anything you can about that particular employer group. So for Bloomfield, find out what the different locations are. That we do have a few. We have a library, we have the senior center, we have the cable department, we have the DPW building. So it helps to kind of know the township and the campus. But then you can also go on the website and see who's the department head, and you can set up questions for when you do the interview.
That's right. Have questions ready for your interview. And I'll just say that for our department, we have all this video content that I'm going to ask you about because it's available. And I'm just interested, like, how much time did you take to explore what we're actually doing? And is it really a good fit for you? Because maybe this isn't the kind of work that you want to be doing. So what kind of questions do you think are important to ask?
So I think certainly you can ask about the benefits. There's nothing wrong with asking about the benefits, but I would ask, what does this position that you're applying for, what does a day-to-day look like? Because for example, the Treasury office, it becomes very busy around February when taxes are due. But the rest part of the year, what can someone expect to do in that position? And then for the road crew, they're very busy during the winter season. What does that person expect to do in the summer season? And even for a police officer or a firefighter, the person that's applying for that position, just ask, what does the regular day-to-day look like? What does the schedule look like? So you have a good idea of the position that you're applying for.
All right. This is another favorite of mine. Dress appropriately.
Yes. So, I think it really says something in today's world if you are actually wearing a suit or a jacket and looking presentable. If you're coming in because you were gardening or just ran to the grocery store or maybe just came from yoga class. I guess if you're applying for the fitness instructor position, then maybe that applies. But I think it does make a difference to dress appropriately when you're going for an interview.
Oh, we've got a comment here. Thank you, Crystal. She says, oh my goodness, as an independent educational consultant, I'm consistently addressing the importance to details. So yes. I think that's related to our earlier conversation.
Yeah, doing the little things like spell check and looking, even that's an attention to detail is checking out the township's website or any employer group's website that you're going to apply a position for.
And so we're still more of a conservative
We are.
culture. So do you think, I mean, should they wear a jacket and tie? Is that something, or is it just depending on the kind of the job that they're, I mean, obviously if you're in the finance department, they're pretty much, it's still a jacket and tie culture.
Right.
But not every day.
Correct. Not every day. And I would say if you're probably more in the Department of Public Works, you probably are not required to wear a jacket and tie. But something appropriate, something without lettering on it would be good, something like that. But just if you're not sure what dress appropriate is, ask someone, hey, is this good to wear to an interview? I'm sure someone would give you an honest opinion.
I know I would. You may not like it, but I would certainly give it to you. One of the things that I really like that we do in government is that we give a pay scale for the job. And so it's the low end and the high end. And what is the difference in that range? Because I'm finding that some people that are applying, they just want the top of the range. And I don't think that that's really, it's not usually where we start people is the top, but that's kind of
probably not very realistic either. So the range is probably going to be affected by your education and your experience for the position. And that's really how any position should be qualified for your particular industry, or, not just here at the township, but any employer group has a range for where we're going to pay a position. So I would, if your aspirations are to start at the top, then I'm guessing you have all the education, all the experience, but I think you kind of have to make that negotiation with the department head and not expect to be right at the top as soon as you start.
So can we talk a little bit about what kind of jobs are available right now? I know in police everywhere is having a hard time just because there's less availability, I guess, of the candidates.
I think there's less and less people that want to be a police officer, and it's unfortunate because I think it's a great job to serve your community, and I think Bloomfield Township is a great community to serve.
They're amazing here. Yeah,
they really are. And even with our fire department, they really are ingrained in the community. They do treat each other as a family, and I think that you don't always get that wherever you go.
Yeah. And they get along here, right? Fire and police get along here, and I guess that's not common. So that's what I see is that they have really good relationship between the two departments. So.
Yeah, they do. And I think currently we have a couple positions open for both. You need to check the township website. I think we have 8 full-time positions that are open currently right now. And I expect to have more throughout this year. So definitely keep an eye out on the township website under employment opportunities.
So I think, so I've been working with the police department in trying to do recruiting for them. And I think for the whole year, they need 11. 4 of those will be after, assuming the budget passes in April. The 4 will be, I think, dedicated to the new traffic division. And my point in saying this was that I think that, so with that many people starting, they start with seniority. So there's like the first couple they would start and they would already have seniority when they started. Is that right?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. So, I mean, it depending on your experience. We've had some officers start who have experience with other communities.
Right.
So they probably would start at a different pay level than someone who just came out of the police academy and doesn't have as much experience.
Yeah. So I guess the ones that don't have seniority usually work overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're starting at the beginning part of Bloomfield Township, low end of the totem pole. Yeah. You start on the midnight shift and you work your way up to the day shifts.
Yeah. So I went and saw when the shift change. I was there Friday night for the shift change, and I was able to talk to some of the officers about like what do they like about nights, and the sergeant actually he likes it because he says he doesn't get interrupted. He's like he can get all his work done.
Right.
And so and he's been with the department 25 years.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So he's been there a long time. And I guess sometimes they switch back. One guy told me that they'll start out in overnights and then they'll go to days and then they'll get married and have a family and then they'll go back to nights so that they can help out with their
kids.
with parenting.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was an interesting perspective. So yeah. What else do we have? What else do we want to share with people?
I don't think, I think a lot of people just don't stretch their wings out enough. So if you see an opportunity, it doesn't hurt to apply and interview. I think those are skills you continually need to update on occasion for anyone, and starting off in private industry or government industry. If you see something that looks intriguing to you, I think it's a good idea to apply.
Is there a standard interview process for the township, how different departments manage things?
I think each department manages it slightly differently. I mean, there are probably a set of questions that we've kind of already vetted out slightly, but I think for the most part, the interviews are still in person, even though in COVID, we were probably doing a few things over Zoom or stuff like that, but I think they're still in person. And I think each department head probably sets that up a little differently.
I know that we do, the first interview is virtual. We just do that, and then we switch up who does the interview, but we like to see them come in and make sure that they're on time and
I think being on time, right? That's one of those markers of why you do an interview in person, for sure.
Right. Well, I don't have any more questions for you. So, and if anybody out there, I don't see any questions. So we're just going to wrap it up and say goodbye. And I really thank you for being here and offering all those tips. I think this is super valuable, and that this video is going to be played over and over again as people look to apply for the township, and for some tips on making their applications. So thank you for watching Coffee with Carrie, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.